there's a peculiar contradiction in the way we live. On one hand, we know, at least intellectually, that life is short. Every culture, every religion, every philosophy reminds us of our mortality. We write poems about it. We mourn the brevity of it. And yet, most of us live as if we'll never run out of time. We act as if we can afford to waste our days. We delay the truth. We avoid the hard choices. We postpone the dreams that once set our hearts on fire. And all the while time, unforgiving and quiet, moves forward completely indifferent to our hesitations. You know, the truth is life is not only short, it's uncertain. You don't get a countdown clock. You don't know how many sunsets you have left, how many conversations you'll still get to have, or how many mornings you'll wake up thinking you have another shot. You just assume there will be more. But that assumption, that's the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves, because it justifies passivity, it justifies comfort. It allows you to stay small when everything in you knows you're meant for more. You know, we often measure life in years, but in reality, life happens in moments. And those moments are incredibly easy to waste. A censor's minute scroll on social media, an entire evening spent worrying about what someone might think, a whole year sacrificed to a job you hate because you're too afraid to leave. The human capacity for self-sabotage is staggering. And it's not because we're weak, it's because we're afraid. We fear failure, we fear judgment, we fear pain. So instead we settle, we tolerate mediocrity dressed up as stability. But if you step back and ask yourself, is this really how I want to live? If you ask that honestly, you'll start to feel the weight of your own time slipping through your fingers. You know, now here's where it gets even more tragic. Many people only wake up when it's too late. When the doctor gives them a diagnosis, when a loved one dies unexpectedly, when they suddenly realize the mirror reflects a version of themselves they no longer recognize. That's when it hits them that they've traded the preciousness of their existence for safety, for approval, for numbness, and what they wouldn't give to go back and just start, you know. But why wait for crisis to teach you urgency? Why not live with intention now? You know, you see, if you truly understood the brevity of life, not just intellectually, but viscerally, you wouldn't waste your time. You wouldn't keep toxic relationships on life support. You wouldn't postpone the hard conversations. You wouldn't keep ignoring that deep, uncomfortable voice inside you, the one that says, there's more for you than this. You know, and let me be clear, this isn't about productivity or hustle culture. This isn't a call to burn yourself out chasing empty achievements. This is about meaning. Because when you realize how little time you have, the things that don't matter fall away. The noise fades. And what's left are the few things that actually deserve your attention, your purpose, your relationships, your integrity, your growth. You know, what's interesting is that when you start living like your time is limited, paradoxically, life begins to expand. Your days feel fuller, your actions become sharper, your conversations go deeper. You begin to show up, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, completely. And in doing so, you start to change, not because someone told you to, not because you read it in a book, but because you finally realize that wasting time is a form of self-betrayal. And you're done betraying yourself. It's also worth noting that living with this kind of urgency requires courage, because it means breaking patterns. It means saying no when it's inconvenient. It means walking away from comfort, risking being misunderstood. But the alternative is far more painful, reaching the end of your life and realizing you never really lived it. You know, there is no shortcut to this kind of awakening. It doesn't come from a YouTube video or a self-help book. It comes when you confront the terrifying but liberating truth that your time is running out. And once you internalize that, once you let that truth settle deep in your bones, your priorities shift. You stop chasing everything, you start becoming someone, and that's the change we're really talking about here. Not just doing more, but becoming more aware, more responsible, more alive, So I'll leave you with this. If today was your last day, would you be proud of how you spent it? Would you be proud of how you spoke to the people you love, of the effort you put into your work, of the energy you gave to your own soul? Because in the end, the question isn't whether life is short. We already know that. The real question is, what are you doing with the time you have left? Make sure your answer is one you can live and die with